Last week I took a look at the Batman and FaZe Clan crossover. It was one of the most cringy things that I have ever read, and it was so much fun to break it all down. In that video, I said I would look at the Batman and Fortnite crossover comic next, so that's what I'm doing today. But I have a confession to make. I actually liked it. These comics were made almost a year ago. They're of course made to promote the Batman DLC in the actual Fortnite game itself. While I give this review, keep in mind that I'm not a huge Batman or Fortnite fan at all. Ignoring the Fortnite fan base, I'm indifferent to Fortnite and Batman. There's 6 issues of these comics, so I won't be giving a complete play-by-play like I did with the FaZe Clan video. I will cover the basic overview of what happens in these comics, but this will be more of an overall review. But if you came here for the cringe, don't worry, because I got you covered. After we talk about the Batman and Fortnite crossover, I want to talk to you guys about the Eminem and Punisher crossover. It's very similar to the FaZe Clan comic in the sense that it's ironically funny as hell, but now with a touch of edginess. But first, Fortnite. If you've seen the trailers for the Batman and Fortnite crossover, then you know the beginning of the story. Batman sees a strange rift in the sky. He investigates and gets sucked in along with Harley Quinn. This story is literally an isekai. Once in, he's confused and ambushed by random people. As it goes on, he realizes that nobody, including himself, is able to talk and that he lost all his memory. The only thing he remembers is how to fight. He runs into Catwoman and they both feel a strange familiarity to one another, but they're not sure why and they're not sure who each other are. Regardless, they team up and fight very well together. They beat up everybody until it's just the two of them. And then the barrier closes in on the two, and that's where the first comic ends. I am just as surprised as you are that there's nothing really cringe here at all. If I had no knowledge of Fortnite, I could easily have been tricked into thinking this is a real Batman comic. Alright, so the premise is that Batman is stuck in the Fortnite world and is forced to compete in battle after battle after battle. Each time he starts over, his memory is erased of the previous battle, but somehow he can leave himself notes and a shack that he built for himself stays around. Plus his emotions also carry over from round to round, but that's it. Alright, now I'll sum up the rest of the story to you guys in a very abridged version. In the second comic, Batman and Catwoman explore the world and figure out how to escape. That being, only one person makes it out alive to claim the victory royale. They don't call it that, but that's what's happening here. So Batman sacrifices himself so Catwoman can win. In the third comic, Catwoman has officially escaped Fortnite land. I think that's what they call it. In this book, we don't get any dialogue from Batman. All we get are notes from an observer. It seems like they're watching everything as if this is an experiment. All that happens in this chapter is Batman fights with Snake Eyes from Fortnite. Meanwhile, the observer just gives commentary about how strong Batman is. Eventually, the two earn each other's respect, and then Snake Eyes gives Batman the victory royale. At this point, I'm actually more intrigued than ever. I want to know who set this all up and why. Originally, I was thinking this would be a dumb, generic isekai that would have little to no explanation with how they got there, but now I have some hope. With that being said, at this point, I was very cautiously optimistic, because while I have been enjoying this comic an okay amount, I have no specific reason to think that this comic will pull through in the end. Alright, now we're halfway through. So in the fourth comic, Batman has officially escaped the loop, and then it's explained that when you finally get your victory royale, you're sent to this island and all your memories from Tomato Town come back to you, but none of your memories from before you entered the loop come back. Only the Fortnite ones. They're then met with a bunch of other people who also escaped the loop. Most of them are Fortnite characters, but there's also Deathstroke. So from here, basically they explore the island, Batman figures out how to escape, so everyone starts escaping. They split up to find the exit, and someone gives Batman a thingy that can be used to enter the Fortnite loop with memories intact. That's the end of the fourth comic, and the fifth comic is probably my least favorite so far. Most of what happens in the fifth comic is they just fight their way over to the 0 point and figure out how they can all go home. I feel like this is where the comic lost me a bit. It really seems like the main appeal here is the fact that DC characters are teaming up with Fortnite characters, which I'm sure is really cool if you're a Fortnite and Batman fan, but if not, it becomes kind of dull here. And to be fair, that's the entire point of the crossover, so you really can't necessarily expect someone who isn't a huge fan of either of these IPs to really care about this. And to be fair, nothing really stuck out as bad here, just kind of boring. So they then figure out how to send people home, and one person actually manages to go home. And then suddenly, Batman thinks it's a perfect time to call out Deathstroke. He calls out Deathstroke for being a traitor. Not sure why Batman couldn't hold this in, because revealing this could jeopardize everybody else from going home. But whatever, they fight for like a page and then the conflict just kind of resolves. And then they go back to sending everybody home. Everyone goes home aside from Batman, Catwoman, and Deathstroke. Deathstroke then betrays the two by going home and stranding them there. And that's where the 5th comic ends. And it's crazy to think about that. We've read 5 of these comics, albeit they're very short, but I really haven't had a huge complaint until the 5th one. This goes without saying, but that's a very good sign for this series. In the final comic, they realize they can still go home if they find another person from their same world. And then they remember that when they were in the Fortnite loop, they saw Harley Quinn and they got a good vibe from her. Well, not a good vibe, but they got a vibe that they knew each other. So they then go back into the Fortnite loop with their memories still intact, thanks to the device that I mentioned earlier. They approach Harley Quinn, who for some explainable reason can still talk and has her memories. She says she likes it there and doesn't want to leave, partially because of the flossing, which is the cringiest line in here. They knock out Harley and are able to go back home, but not before running into clones of themselves. They easily escape the clones, and I think the only reason that they even put the clones in here is to make sense of the fact that there's cosmetics of these characters in the game. Once they're safe and are able to go back home, Catwoman and Batman talk about potentially staying in that world out of fear, but Batman convinces them to go back home. At this point, Harley Quinn wakes up and stays in Fortnite land, but Catwoman and Batman go back home. When they arrive, they get all of their memories back. The comic highlights how they got back memories of how their relationship didn't work out, so Catwoman leaves out of anger. I should have mentioned this by now, but there's a little bit of romance that happened between the two while they were in the Fortnite loop, and that's why Catwoman was so hesitant to come back to her world. But regardless, they're back to their real world, and the rift is now closed. It turns out Lex Luthor, the Batman who smiles, Deathstroke, and Dr. Sloan were the ones who made this all happen, and they have future evil plans. And that's where the comic ends. So yeah, I expected this to be very cringy, and I would be lying if I said that I wasn't at least a little disappointed that I didn't get a bunch of cringe here, because you know me, I love my cringe. But at the end of the day, I really can't say this comic is bad. I did genuinely enjoy it at first. As it went on, it seemed like you really needed to be a fan of Fortnite and Batman to truly enjoy it, whereas the beginning didn't feel like that at all. And you can make the argument this comic isn't made for me, and to that I would say, yeah, that's fair. But regardless, even at my peak enjoyment of the comic, I was never in love with it. I really thought it was good at best. And like I said at the start, this was a very abridged version of the entire story. So if you are a fan of Batman and Fortnite, I would genuinely recommend you give this a read. Alright, enough of the positivity, let's look at the Punisher and Eminem crossover. This pic goes hard. Feel free to screenshot. This is the first page, which is a biography of the two, and wow, this is already so edgy looking. This also looks like they're from a GTA loading screen. So if you don't know who these two are, pause and read it here. It'll give you enough context for this video. Unlike the Fortnite one, this comic is very short, so you will be getting a play-by-play breakdown. It all starts at the end of an Eminem concert. He drops the mic and heads back to his car. That's when they see the Punisher creepily looking at them, and then he says some cryptic lines. I am not sure what's in the background of this panel. It looks like a dead elephant, but I have no idea what's happening here. So at this point, Eminem's guards pull out guns on him, and I don't blame them at all. The Punisher does not look at all inviting. So what the Punisher does is immediately escalate the situation and mows down everybody aside from Eminem. Eminem manages to get out of the line of fire and is now trying to kill the Punisher with a pistol. I know Eminem is supposed to be a hard dude, but I gotta imagine in real life that as soon as he sees this, he is running for his life. And as a side note, I kind of really hate the art. Here it looks like they just traced over a picture of Eminem's face and then gave him a comic book filter from Snapchat. So anyway, Barracuda Barracuda, who is a Punisher villain by the way, grabs Eminem and then tells him that the Punisher is after Barracuda, not Eminem. And here it's revealed that the two used to know each other, which I find kind of funny, like of course they go way back. So Eminem is trying to be the tough guy by not wanting to run away, but then the Punisher grabs a rocket launcher and blows up Eminem's car, so the two escape to an abandoned looking house. While there, Eminem lures the Punisher close and then knocks him out. Of course, Eminem gets all angsty over the fact that the Punisher called him a rock star and says, "You don't want to mess with Shady cause Shady will kill you," and then he shoots the Punisher. Again, I know that they're trying to make Eminem look like a badass, and I know that Slim Shady is Eminem's evil alter ego, but I don't know, with how they're portraying Eminem here, it's like they're trying to get people with Shadow the Hedgehog profile pictures to change their profile picture to this frame. It's then revealed that Barracuda was actually after Eminem the entire time, and the Punisher was only after Barracuda to stop him from killing Eminem. So let me get this straight, the Punisher's job was to save Eminem, but in doing so, he killed all of his guards and blew up his car. And both of these events could easily have killed Eminem. Yeah, no, that's a good plan. Anyway, Barracuda shoots Eminem. Next scene is Barracuda sailing out with the two chained up. Here they're both alive thanks to both of them having body armor on. And again, I just hate this art, and ooh, nice Nike's plug. The Punisher then says that he shot Eminem's bodyguards in self-defense. However, I don't really think they were about to shoot him. I think they were being cautious because you were looking goddamn shady. Slim Shady, may I say. And no matter what, there was definitely a much better way to go about this. The Punisher justifies this, saying that they were probably all wearing body armor. And even if they were, what defense did they have against the rocket that you shot out right next to their bodies? Anyway, Barracuda then explains who put the hit out on Eminem, and how after he dies he's gonna sell all of Eminem's stuff on eBay. Ooh, how diabolical. He then proceeds to throw him into the ocean all chained up, but instead he lands on a sheet of ice, and they give him that dumpy. Since he's not drowning, Cuda then goes to shoot him while singing one of his songs, but then the Punisher stops him. We then go to this panel. What? Okay, so this is an aerial view of the boat that they were on. He must have jumped across a bunch of ice to get to this solid surface. And was Barracuda's plan really to drown these guys while this guy was ice fishing in the near distance? And this all doesn't make a ton of sense. I feel like the writers just got to this point and just had no idea what to do, so they just pulled this out of their ass. Eminem approaches the ice fisher, who happens to be listening to Eminem on his old iPod. Alright, I live in Maine. I know a lot of people who go fishing and ice fishing, and those people aren't typically huge Eminem fans, especially their parents, and this guy seems to be an older guy. I'm not saying it can't happen, I'm just saying it's not their main demographic, which I only really bring up because this guy is Eminem's biggest fan. He has a house full of his pictures and posters. This guy's like a teenage girl, but instead of having just his room dedicated to Eminem, it's his entire goddamn house. We then cut back to Barracuda beating up the Punisher. He is about to kill him when Eminem shows up with a freaking chainsaw and cuts up Barracuda. So Barracuda is defeated, and then the Punisher pulls a gun out on Eminem. He then forces him out onto the ice because he killed Barracuda and tried to kill him. Saying a criminal's a criminal sounds like something that a Punisher would say, but I agree with Eminem saying that his priorities are out of whack. Like, is the Punisher forgetting about the guards that he just mowed down? He's no better than Eminem here. In fact, he's actually worse because it's not even shown that his life is really in danger when he starts shooting. Oh, wait a second. He says, "Sorry I killed your homies. Now we're even." What? Okay, so the Punisher kills Eminem's guards and then strandens Eminem on ice with just a cell phone. Meanwhile, Eminem shot the Punisher when it reasonably looked like he was trying to kill him, and then killed Barracuda, saving the Punisher's life. And this somehow makes them even? How? The Punisher's already done the most wrong. How is putting Eminem on this block of ice making them even in any world? If any of this sounds like something that the Punisher would do do in a real comic, then consider this an attack on the Punisher as well. But I asked my friend who knows the Punisher decently well if this looked legit, and he said no. So given that and what I already knew about the Punisher, I just think this is a bad comic. Who would have thought? It ends with the Punisher going to take care of the people who hired Barracuda to kill Eminem, and Eminem says, "Tell him Shady sent you," which was the only moment that I thought was kind of funny or good in any way. And that's it. That was just an edgy and pointless comic made because I don't know. This was released when Eminem came back from a 5-year hiatus, so I guess this was just some kind of promotion. I don't plan to like dive into a comic book niche or anything, but I just wanted to cover these 3 comics that really piqued my interest. If you do want to see more, just let me know any other weird comic books you might want me to talk about, and I guess we'll just see what happens. But for now, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a fantastic Tuesday.